Greetings to all class 8 students. In our last introduction video, it was all about the summit of Mount Everest. You also had a peek into what are the difficulties that one has to face while climbing Mount Everest. We also talked about that before one decides to reach the summit of Mount Everest, the apex, the highest peak, there is one summit inside that one has to climb, right? So, as conveyed in the introduction video, this chapter 5, the summit within, is all about how, how can we climb our inner summits, that lie within us before we have to climb the actual summit of any mountain or Mount Everest. Let it be Mount Everest. Here, the summit refers to the height of one's determination, willpower, and the spirit of never giving up. These are some of the qualities that one should have to meet the target, right? Now, this chapter, The Summit Within, it is a real life experience which has been shared by Major Haripal Singh Ahluwalia, who's known in the chapter as Major HPS Ahluwalia, who was the captain of Indian Army earlier and who climbed Mount Everest in 1965 on 29th of May with Fu Dorji, HCS Rawat, along with 6 other mountaineers, other climbers. It was a team and they climbed and conquered Mount Everest on 29th of May. Right? So he sort of shared this experience that how climbing the Everest has changed his life for good. How did he feel when he stood on the highest point in the world? How does one feel there after climbing and facing so many problems you had gone through? How an individual really suffers and puts his life at stake while climbing. Yes, there are so many risk factors that one has to overcome to reach the summit. Let us hear this story of him in his own words, climbing the summit, and then the more difficult task, children. The more difficult task is of climbing the summit within. You talk about climbing Mount Everest a little later on, but there is a tougher, a stronger, and more difficult summit is there inside you. That has to be climbed first in a way that nothing really can stop you. Alright, so let's start. I'm here on page number 76, first paragraph. Of all the emotions which surged through me, wherever we read me, I, who speaks, please remember the speaker, Major HPS Ahluwalia. We will call him Major. Right. Of all the emotions which surged through me as I stood on the summit of Everest, looking over miles of panorama below us, the dominant one, I think, was humility. The physical in me seemed to say, thank God it's all over. It's all refers to the climbing. However, instead of being jubilant, yes, jubilant, that means very happy, immensely, there was a tinge of sadness as well. Was it because I had already done the ultimate in climbing and there would be nothing higher to climb and all roads hereafter would lead down? Look at the way Major talks here. It seems his willpower, his firm determination was, tougher, more difficult, stronger than Mount Everest. Only then the person can talk like this. You see, he starts this story by telling the readers, us, about the rush, of multiple emotions that once he reached the summit in 1965 on 29th of May. How did he feel there? He says in this, in his story, in his experience that he had shared with us, that he had to, go through different types of feelings at the same time, because he saw the huge panoramic view. Panoramic, that means that covers a view that can cover wider area. You see, these days in most Android phones, in the camera, the panoramic view features is always there. You can try it out. You see, you can always rotate it and wider area can be covered while you snap up. Right? So what does he say? When he saw this panoramic view, icy view below him, it made him, feel so small and modest. Here, humility is the quality of having low importance about oneself, being humble, the feeling of being modest when yourself is not important, but someone else or something else is important. You see, that is like, you keep your profile low all the time. So that is what the same, applying here to major. Climbing up to the top of the Mount Everest had made him so tired that his physical strength was drained. It was all over. But rather than feeling proud and joyous of having climbed the highest peak in this world, what did he feel? He could feel some sort of sadness inside himself, because he was so prepared mentally that anything that comes his way, he was determined to, overcome it, face it. But he was not ready to leave climbing and give up climbing till he reaches there. So what he say, what does he think? Oh, once he reached the summit, he thought, oh, is this the last point now? Am I done with the climbing? All climbing is over now? The only probable reason for this feeling could be that I think perhaps he had become more proficient in climbing the highest, the highest summit, and all the roads from that point would go downward. Now nothing to go upward, nothing to climb. Everything has to come downward, right? So that is what he feels. So that is the the feeling of being humble, feeling of humility, like yourself. You always feel that okay, God has made such a beautiful world, and you are just like the smallest particle into it. You're nothing, right? So that is what is the feeling, like yourself is not important, but the one who has made this world and has given you the chance to be in the place is greater than you. This sort of feeling comes. In his words, he says that when I reached the summit, I felt that very small, that I am the smallest particle in this big universe. Okay, let's go to the second paragraph. By climbing the summit of Everest, you are overwhelmed by a deep sense of joy and thankfulness. It is a joy which lasts a lifetime, and the experience changes you completely. The man who has been to the mountains is never the same again. Yes, perhaps climbing the mountain is very tough. Any obstacles that one has to face, he has to overcome them with the tough determination. So with every step that they take, they learn a lesson, because they are sort of, put to a test, and they have to pass that test. Right. As I look back at life after climbing Everest, I cannot help remarking about the other summit, the summit of mind, no less formidable and no easier to climb. Right, we are here on page number 77. Okay. Even when getting down from the summit, once the physical exhaustion had gone, I began asking myself the question why I had climbed Mount Everest. Please underline this. Why did the act of reaching the summit have such a hold on my imagination? It was already a thing of past, something done yesterday. With every passing day, it would become more remote. And then, what would remain? Would my memories fade slowly away? Okay, so you see, what does he formidable here? That means something very strong, something, very powerful, something more terrifying. Remote means distant, right? Now, what does Major say here? He says that whenever he thinks about having climbed the summit of Everest, yes, in the video we all have seen tough is the climbing upward and tougher is the the coming down part, downward. You see, getting down is even tougher because it's like a very steep. The way you have climbed, the one who has reached the summit after such a tough and steep climbing, it is very risky to come downward in that steep slope. So it's very difficult. What he says that what he thought about having climbed the summit of Everest, he just cannot help but think about another significant summit which is there inside us, which is the summit of your mind, which is not at all easier to climb either, nor it is less terrifying and challenging, less formidable. Once he had climbed Everest, returned, and he recovered from the physical exhaustion, the tiredness, the fatigue. He then, once he was back to his normal life, you see, it takes time for you to come back to your normal life. Once you have climbed summit and you reach your base camp again, it takes time for you to recover, right? So once he was back to normal, he began to ask himself the reasons as to why he climbed that highest peak. What was the reason? It was very difficult to understand for him why the accomplishment had such a great impact on his imagination all the time that he just could not get rid of thinking about his climbing, thinking about how his journey was, how tough his climbing was, and what did he feel there. He just could not get Mount Everest out of his mind. Okay, so he knew that each day will pass by and the memories of climbing Mount Everest will be slowly fading away. It will be getting older. At that very moment, he was, more concerned about, would I be forgetting my climbing Mount Everest? Is it very easy to forget your climbing and the time that one has spent there? Right? So he keeps on, thinking about his climb. How did he do it with his team? Okay. Now, all these thoughts led me to question myself as to why people climb mountains. Now, while he was thinking, why have I chosen Mount Everest to climb? I could have gone somewhere else and have my climbing hobby done, fulfilled. It is not easy to answer this question, according to Major. The simplest answer would be, perhaps as others would have said, well, because the mountain is there, so I went and climbed. But it's not very easy. It presents great difficulties. Please underline these 3 lines. Man takes delight in overcoming obstacles. The obstacles in climbing a mountain are physical, because a climb to a summit means what? There are 3 qualities that he talks about. First, endurance, your persistence, and your willpower. Doubly underline these qualities. You have a question on the back. The demonstration of these 3 qualities is no doubt exhilarating, as it was for me too. Yes, he talks about how tough the climbing was for me. It was a constant struggle to survive with an icy rock, plus unpredictable weather, avalanches. Right. Endurance, when he says, is one's tolerance, the power, the strength to tolerate both physical and mental. Your persistence is the fact of continuing in a course of action in spite of difficulty. That means, despite facing difficulties, your stamina to stay on the task, and that too focused. Exhilarating, that means quite exciting and thrilling. You see, while he was thinking about all the thoughts that came into Major's mind, made him ask himself, what? Why people climb mountains? Well, it's not easy to answer this question. Perhaps some people may say, well, there is a mountain there, big enough, tall enough, high enough, so we would love to go and climb. That's not the perfect answer, because climbing a mountain, it poses great challenges, and we all know that overcoming them, all these obstacles bring what? Pleasure to climbers. You see, man has this sort of, what do we call? Attitude, perhaps the ego. When he sees the mountain standing upright, tall, he wants to conquer anything that man wants to dominate. And after conquering, it gives man a sort of pleasure. In climbing a mountain, it's one's tolerance, one's willpower, and one's determination is what all these 3 qualities are put to test. The exhibition of these 3 physical qualities and one's awareness towards them. On the other hand, it is quite thrilling, and the same was the case with Major HPS Ahluwalia. He has answered this question, why people, choose Mount Everest to climb. Perhaps this is the answer. They climb because climbing, overcoming, and conquering the summit of any mountain gives climbers the pleasure. And what a climber needs to reach any summit is the endurance, persistence, and third, one's willpower. Right? Please remember, there is a question with regards to this on the back. Right. Now let's go to the next paragraph. I have a more personal answer to the question. From my childhood, I have been attracted by mountains. I had been miserable, lost, when kept away from mountains. In the plains, mountains are nature at its best. Their beauty and majesty pose a great challenge to man. And like many, I believe that mountains are a means of communion with God, especially Mount Everest, which is known to be the abode of gods. Yes. Majesty is what? The great beauty. Communion is, exchanging the mean of exchanging thoughts, your feelings. Yes, share it with Almighty God. Especially at the spiritual level, what Major feels in his words, why people climb a mountain is according to him because he was brought up in the mountains. In fact, when he was a child, during his childhood, whenever he was away from the mountains, he felt very sad and miserable. Yes. So he had been always immensely attracted by this mountain since his childhood. Now, other thing he says that he feels mountains are the perfect and the most beautiful example of nature. The nature in the best form, if you want to see, then you look at the mountains. Now, there are significant challenges these mountains pose to climber, but apart from that, the mountain are the nature's best creation. Yes, and he also thinks that mountains give people a chance to communicate with Almighty God. The higher you go onto the summit and you stand there, bigger the chances that you can communicate with Almighty God, the one who resides up above in the heavens, in the skies. So the closer you are to the sky, the greater the chances you have to talk with him. This is what Major feels, and he shares this with us. Okay. Next paragraph says, once having granted this, the question remains. Now, if if one thinks that yes, I want to climb the biggest mountain, the tallest and the highest one, but then why Mount Everest? They could have gone to any other taller mountain, the higher mountain. Why Mount Everest? Okay, because it is the highest, the mightiest, and has defied many previous attempts. Please underline this lines, 2 lines here. It takes the last ounce of one's energy. It is a brutal struggle with rock and ice. Once taken up, it cannot be given up halfway, even when one's life is at stake. You have seen in the videos how climbers are queued up and have to survive on the rope, you see. And when the leader takes one step, all other team members will take another step. So, it's not only their lives, rely on each other. And the leader will have the toughest responsibility to lead them in ice. Okay, that is why he says once taken up, it cannot be given up halfway. Even when you think that your life is going to end up here, you cannot. You have to continue your journey. The passage back is as difficult as the passage onwards. And then, when the summit is climbed, there is this exhilaration, the joy of having done something great, the sense of a battle fought and won. You see, there are people in this world who don't only fight for the sake of fighting, but they fight because they want to win. So the fight with constantly, ice and rock, is to reach the summit. That means you won the battle. And then, when the summit is climbed, there is the exhilaration, the joy of having done something, the sense of battle fought and won. I repeated this line. There is a feeling of victory and of happiness. Okay, so you see, once having found out why to climb mountains, the other question is why Everest? This question remains. So, in Major's words, probably because it's the highest and the tallest mountain in the world, and because it has resisted many attempts of people who were trying to climb it. Because to reach the summit of Everest, it takes every bit of your energy from your body. It is a harsh struggle with ice and huge rocks. Once you have taken this hard challenge, there is no option for you that is left for you to come back. You can't leave your journey halfway. Even if you think that your life is at risk and you have to go back. I tell you, children, when you are halfway, when climbers are there, who have already commuted the distance of 2000 meters or 4000 meters, and they start fainting, they are unable to climb, they have frostbite and so many other problems, they still have to continue their journey. They can't afford to come back. Why? Because there are so many other factors, that there is an entire team who's there with you. Every team member is relying on you, on each other. So you alone cannot decide that you want to go back because you are now unable to. You still have to continue the journey, because coming downward steep, it is even riskier than climbing up, right? Okay, so he says that yes, because the passage backwards poses the same difficulties and the challenges as the passage that goes upward, right? When finally, after overcoming all these obstacles, one reaches the summit, the highest peak, there are feelings of what? Accomplishment, excitement, joy, victory, triumph, and the happiest one. You are the happiest one on this planet, perhaps. There is a feeling of having a battle fought and finally you won the battle. Right? So, this is what one thinks. Now, we are going to have our learning till here. In our next video, we will be starting again from the next paragraph. I want you all, this is a beautiful chapter. It is a real life experience shared by Major Ahluwalia, Haripal Singh Ahluwalia. You can also gather some information about him. There is plenty. You can read and update yourself, your thinking tank, your information tank. So keep reading and keep learning. If you have any questions, you can jot them down and we will discuss them during our live session. Okay, so keep learning. Till then, we meet next.